Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today. Chapter 4 of 6. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. Welcome back for Chapter 4 of 6 for our Fall 2020 session. Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome back for Chapter 4 of our 6-part series. I left off with a question that was curated by Hugo, and so let's continue where we left off from. All right, you ask another question from Emily. So we had 2 of Emily's questions selected in Chapter 3, and let's see what's happening here in Chapter 4. Emily's question on how advancements in technology are continuing to benefit supply chains is something of interest. With the amount of experience you have in your career, it would be nice to hear some of the positive changes you have seen in supply chains. Okay. Well, I just want to say off the bat, I'm not a supply chain expert. Okay, so I certainly have involvement at my marketing and operational level with logistics to the supply chain, and I've created products from inception, right? So to manufacture to market, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily get my hands dirty in the supply chain. And my work in SAP was more at a marketing level than it was at the actual logistics of the ERP aspect of the supply chain. Okay, anyway, just wanted to point out the limitations to the answer, but thanks for that vote of confidence, Hugo. All right, so let's see what Emily's 3rd question is over. This is now Chapter 4. This is the 3rd question that you've been featured in. So I guess you've been asking some fantastic ones. And of course, let's see. Amazon's new grocery store with advanced technology is revolutionizing the supply chain by having faster processes and greater efficiency. What are some other ways that supply chain is benefiting from new technology? And Emily gives another source here, which if you take a look at that, again, for anybody watching these videos, as I mentioned in the last chapter, just go to my Twitter feed, which is a companion to this. Go to @MarketingKitchen TV, type in the hashtag Q&A, and you can find all of these questions. And in particular, for this particular session here, I was curating questions. So you would type in @RonaldVining with the hashtag MKTQ, and you'll be able to find this specific set of curated questions. Anyway, so you can not only can you find all the questions, but you can find the sources in the backup. And Emily's question, of course, is based on a post that Alexander wrote, which you can link back to and see that on LinkedIn. So anyway, there's a whole social process that's going on here, and that's where, for those of you who are unfamiliar, where these questions are coming from and why. All right. I think the example you give of Amazon is a fantastic one, and the logistical aspect of that, and how Amazon's buying Whole Foods has certainly helped them in understanding this process before even applying that technology to their own soon-to-be branded grocery stores that should be rolling out across the country. And we've seen this process in the Amazon retail stores as well, not the ones selling groceries, but the ones selling their products and actual, some books, right? So actually some physical things on the store shelf. So let's back this to a video that I did about digital disruption, and it was the hyper-connected retail. And that's where this all got started. So I think that video is now 6 years old, or well, maybe not the video. The video is not 6 years old, but the speech that I gave. Because yes, as Hugo pointed out, I have been working in this space for a while. So while I'm not a supply chain expert, I have advised on this integration, this whole process about, because when we're talking about virtual supply chains, we're going to that same very minute level that I talked about in that customer journey, understanding the customer from the minute that they wake up. You know, they're looking at their phone, what they do throughout that day, and they end their day by looking at that phone and then placing it by their nightstand. And actually, not that I subscribe to it very well, but I have a policy now where I don't charge my phone in my bedroom anymore. I charge it right over here in the counter. So when you're watching the opening crawl for Marketing Kitchen TV, you'll see the pan of the kitchen, and the space where my monitor is, that's where I charge my phone at night. And so it's far away from me, which is in the bedroom, which is on the other side of my condo. And that's a deliberate act so that I won't be on my phone and I'll actually get to sleep. Because otherwise I'll be retweeting tweets to eNetwork Marketing, Ron Vining, Marketing Kitchen, and any of the other feeds. Okay. Anyway, let's go back to that hyper-connected video. And in that video, I talk about Disney and the My Disney experience. So what we're talking about, the Amazon stores, I guess, is a little bit closer to supply chain, because they're talking about the growers that are getting the fresh food, getting them into the market in time so that they don't expire or perish, so that they can be bought by the consumer. And not just Amazon is doing this, right? So Wegmans has, and Stop and Shop with Peapod. There's been a number of people that have been pioneering in this space. But I think the people that really got this right is Disney with My Disney Experience. And that technology, for those that have not watched that video yet, and I encourage you to, it's here on Marketing Kitchen TV YouTube. Just go to the masterclass section there. And I really want to, at some point, I've got 30 some modules. So in other words, similar to that hyper-connected speech there, I've got about 30 other speeches that I could do master classes on, modules that I've created. And I'm really tempted to record them and then put them in this channel there, sort of as a free learning. But another part of me is thinking that maybe I'll not wear the red shirt, and I'll wear my green shirt for my channel, my website coming up, which is AppFlix. And I'll put a teaser of them on the AppFlix YouTube, and then invite you to go to the AppFlix website to watch the full masterclass there. And because my idea in creating my own social network is to get people off of, or not get them off of, but have them, just like how we use YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and Instagram, then also throw AppFlix into that mix. So why not be on AppFlix when you can be on the others? Okay, plug is over there. So what Disney has done with My Disney Experience is they've taken it to a whole other level, in the sense of it's about your travel booking. It's about so you can book your travel. And of course, the current situation has changed a lot of this, but at the same time, it's also helped them, because they can use My Disney Experience to help with this contact tracing aspect of things. So, but with your RFID band that you get, your magic band that it's called, when you book your holiday, and you can choose your magic band, you can reserve which theme park you're going to go to which day, which again is critical at this point in time. You can reserve which attractions you want to go to in a particular park on a particular day, which restaurants you want to go to. You can even select your meal if you wanted to. You can select your merchandise. You obviously have pre-selected your hotel. Disney has a sort of a personalized Uber service on their grounds. I'm talking about Walt Disney World, by the way, in Orlando, Florida. So from a supply chain logistical standpoint, they have mapped out you have the ability to map out your entire vacation, 7 days worth if you wanted, or more, and Disney will know where you're going to be from the minute you arrive on their property to the minute that you depart their property. And from a logistics and a supply chain aspect, that's fantastic for them. From a marketing aspect, that's fantastic. From a demand generation, that's amazing. So they'll know how many steaks, how many salmon, They'll know what the queue times they can predict what the queue times may be, which rides that they should or shouldn't take out of service for maintenance during that period of time, which plushes are going to be available. And in fact, speaking of Disney, and just to pull out the nerd in me here, what's amazing is that Star Wars is, of course, owned by Disney, Lucasfilm is, and so they have Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And what was really cool is this year came out the very first set based on, and you see the little stinger here. This is actually one of the attractions in, this is in Rise of the Resistance. This is the queue that you go into, is you would actually walk into this, in order to start your experience on this attraction, you actually walk into here, and this becomes the show building to set up the Rise of the Resistance attraction, and then you'll walk out the other side, and then your journey, your journey begins here on the attraction. Anyway, what's really cool is there's a Lego set for it. So, for example, Disney could anticipate how many sets they need to order from Lego to know it's so that the gift shop would be stocked with this particular Lego set, let's just say. Lego, they could put an advanced order into Lego, and Lego would then have an idea of how many sets they would need to order to make sure to fulfill this piece of the experience. All right, I think you get what I'm saying here. So the question is, what are some other ways that supply chain is benefiting from the new technology? I think this is it right here. It's sort of like, it's a real-time predictive supply chain. And what has happened is that you now can base this, you now have a higher level of historical data that is more accurate or representative of what the next day will look like, the next booking cycle, the next year. And you can then going back to a question that was asked, you can develop personas, because Disney can now anticipate when somebody of a similar makeup books a holiday, they may follow this same pattern. So it becomes much more, with AI, much more predictive. Okay, great question again, Emily, thank you so much, and thank you for curating that question, Hugo. Okay, our second curated question of the day. And what do we have here? I think this is a good question to answer. Companies are buying more automation. This is great. I was just talking about AI. Companies are buying more automation for their manufacturers, or improve. I guess is the question: are companies buying more automation for their manufacturers, or improving the ones they already have? Can human labor be completely replaced? Okay, yeah, I get this question a lot, and if you go through the Q&A thread, so if you just, so here on, or a playlist rather, so right here on YouTube, everyone watching, you can go to the Marketing Q&A playlist, and you can look and see the titles, and I've answered some questions specifically about this one before. That's a good question. So let's see what the question was that you were curating, so I can make sure I ask it more specifically. All right, so AI is continuously growing every year, and millions of jobs have been replaced and will be even more by 2030. Should we be worried about humans being replaced, or is this an opportunity for more people to find valuable skills in the future? Okay, so again, I'm trying to think about what I said in the other videos to remain consistent, though of course with the way technology and disruption happens, things are going to change in there. So I completely agree with you. AI is continuously growing, and millions of jobs every day, or every year. I'm not sure millions of jobs, millions of jobs were just completely ended when the government said you're not essential, so you can't go to work. So when governments across the globe did that, already there was already a lot of job displacement due to technology, and governments were really worried about what that was going to look like. Quite convenient, isn't it? That they don't have to worry about what that's going to look like, because they created a situation where they got to see what that's going to look like and then how to manage it. And interestingly too, they got to see it in a controlled situation where you weren't going to protest about it because you were afraid if you didn't subscribe. So you voluntarily said, okay, I'll go home, I'll stay at home, I'll wait and see how things are going to be. And as time passed, and as one lockdown led to, so remember, everyone was asked to just kind of hang tight for 14 days. 14 days became 6 weeks. 6 weeks became 6 months. And now it's almost a year. Okay, tangent. So, millions of jobs have already been lost, not just to AI, but to some other factors, right? So, should we as humans be worried about being replaced by AI? Or there's going to be more opportunities that people can find to gain more valuable skills in the future? And I got to tell you that in some other videos, I predicted a bleak dystopian future, and I've written some posts on Twitter about it. I responded to a couple of futurist comments there, and this was pre what the situation we're in now. And what's the world going to look like when everybody's home? Like, what are we doing? The UK, not the UK, the EU has proposed taxing people that stay at home. Can you believe this nonsense? Listen to this. There's a tax proposal in place saying that those of you, because government forced you to be home, those of you that are going to choose to work from home, I don't think people chose to, some did. Those of you that choose to work from home, we're going to have to tax you, because the infrastructure we built with your tax money, mind you, the infrastructure we built with your tax money, that's the roads and the bridges and the trains and the buses, all of those logistics that we built for you are not being utilized. And we built them for you with your tax dollars based on the assumption that you'd be paying fare, whether it's a gas tax, a toll, or the fare, whatever, okay? So we assume that we'd further tax you to pay for these services by your utilization of them. But now that we forced you into your homes and we're never intending to let you out, we need to make money somehow. So we're going to tax those of you that are at home so that we can generate more revenue to continue to make things happen. I've talked about before, maybe not on this channel, and maybe I don't remember in what method it was before, but the greatest virus on the planet, or the greatest parasite on the planet, is government. It's an organism that just continues to grow. It continues to need to be fed. And what continues to feed government? Taxes. And so government is always going to want more and more money as it continues to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And it needs you to a certain extent. Think about the film The Matrix. Okay, so we'll leave it right there. This is what we're talking about, and maybe I'm on a tangent, maybe I'm not going in the right direction that you expected, Kevin. But when we're talking about AI, and we're talking about job loss, and we're talking about the new economy, maybe in 2030 is going to be here lightning fast. Time's going by so quickly. I mean, think about it. Election 2020 just happened. Everybody now is already talking about election 2022. I can't snap with my right hand. Election 2024, right? And then we're just 6 years away after that. Andrew Yang, the candidate who ran maybe halfway through the primary process, he talks about a minimum monthly income, which would be provided by the government. So it would basically be paying people to stay at home. Interesting. So we'll pay people to stay at home, but then we'll tax them. But where's that money coming from? So if I'm working, I'm teaching. I have my tech startup. I've got a couple of them. And then I had my consulting, and I had my speaking, and I had my training business. So I'm working my tail off, and for what? So when I'm home, I won't be able to qualify for this minimum monthly wage, but I'll be taxed to death to pay for somebody to sit at home to do that. What? And then now government wants to tax in the EU, but if it's happened in the EU, it'll come to America, I'm sure. And then you want to tax me for working from home because I'm not leeching off of the system? You kidding me? So this is what that future could potentially look like as humans are replaced by AI and automation. and as more and more people are deemed non-essential. It's very interesting to me which jobs the government chose was essential and what was not essential. So it's okay, and I got nothing wrong. I got nothing against these brands, okay? So don't get me wrong here. But Home Depot is essential, but the local hardware store is not. Target is essential, and Walmart, they're essential, but the local pharmacist is not. You get where I'm going with this? Costco and BJ's and Sam's Club are essential, and Stop and Shop and Wegmans and Whole Foods, okay? But the farmer's market is not. See, I hope you see where I'm going here. We're moving towards a totalitarian system. This is not politics. This is economics. We are moving towards an economic model where corporatists, globalists, technocrats, the technocracy are the new monoliths. And these companies have got to be broken apart. They've got to be slowed, or they've got to be stopped. Or like government, there are going to be these all-encompassing organizations, these all-encompassing organisms, rather, that are going to continue to need to be fed. And who's going to feed them? If less and less people are working, and I think about the legalization of marijuana, and I think about the fact that you can, in some states, go to a casino but not go to church. A liquor store is essential, but the corner store is not. You can wait in line to go to the grocery store, but you can't wait in line to vote. We're moving towards a system where the middle class is going to be completely eradicated, and you're going to have two very divergent classes. One of them fully dependent upon government, one of them fully supporting the government. And that's not good. And this isn't just happening in America, this is happening across the globe. So something to think about. Again, this is not a political commentary. This is an economic reality that has happened. We've been building towards this. The trigger point was just what was given as the excuse to lock this in. And I look at Amazon. Amazon was already consuming so many different facets of the economy, and now they almost own it. So will there be an opportunity for more people to find valuable skills in the future? Skills doing what, Kevin? I guess that's a question. I mean, it's a great question. I just throw it back. Skills doing what? One of the most essential roles in the economy right now, two of them anyway, well, three of them. One is healthcare. Another is food delivery. The third would be the people working in the food and beverage industry and in the grocery stores, and people still farming and doing all of that to bring the stuff to your table. But then delivery. And we've not yet seen the onslaught of automated cars yet. But if you saw the last Wolverine movie, where they had the trucks that were drone operated going up and down the highway, and if Elon Musk and Apple and Uber have their way with automated driving, then all of those now essential jobs are gone. And if drones are actually delivering product to your home instead of the person on their motor scooter or their car with Uber Eats or whatever the delivery method is that you're using to get your food, if that's now drone based, then all those jobs are gone. So the question is a computer programmer valuable in the future? Is a developer? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because Facebook purports that they their AI has created its own language. So they had two bots, if you will, that started speaking to each other, and they started to create their own language. And they now talk to each other on their own, independent of a programmer. So who's to say that AI won't be doing the programming and the development? And the company only needs so many supervisors. I honestly don't have an answer for you, Kevin. And well, I do have an answer, but it's not a good one, and I'm going to try to stay positive. Okay, but that's a fantastic question, and something that we really have to be mindful of, something that we really have to watch. So thank you for asking that, and thank you so much for curating that question as well. I appreciate that. And let's see, you have another one. So will that be, how many have we done today? So that's 1, 2, okay. So our third question today, I'll let you take 1 and 2. All right, that's true. We millennials have grown, so this is our third question today in chapter 4. That's true. We millennials have grown up together with the evolution of media. I would like to know too, how can market to us? Okay, you want to know how to market to millennials? So let's see what the source question is right here. With such wide-ranging demographic hobbies, sorry, I've been recording all day, and I just have to check in. I mean, we're so attached to our devices, right? So anyway, I just have to check in. My team is messaging me, so I just have to make sure that I respond. Because in the days of old work, right, it's about multitasking, and you'll always find that as a manager or as a business owner, that when you really notice what stops progress, and oftentimes an unanswered question stops progress. So that's why I have to always be answering what's being asked so that the next step can continue. Okay, so let's see. With such wide-ranging demographics, hobbies, and values, it's no wonder that millennials are one of the hardest groups to market. Another one of these millennial-centric questions. Okay, I love them, but again, I don't understand them, because age is just, it's a great question, and I'm not coming down on you for asking the question. Anybody who asks me these millennial-specific questions, and you'll see if you look at any of my videos here, or any of the posts that I've written on LinkedIn, so content on Twitter, stuff on LinkedIn, here on YouTube. Age is just one segmenting factor, and while some things can be made of a group based upon their age, I think that they're actually one of the least reliable. It's the same thing as somebody basing how somebody's going to feel based on gender. I don't feel that gender, I think you're really making a big, not you, I think whoever does this in marketing, I think they're making a big mistake when they base on gender or age, because we're all different. And age and gender are not things that define us. Just like race, and I'll be real careful as I thread this needle right here. Oh boy, I'm walking into a minefield here. But we shouldn't allow race to define us either. We can't say that all people of one race feel this way. All people of one race vote this way. All people of one race, age or gender, or education, whatever the demographic segmentation is, we can't say that all people that fit those categories subscribe to a specific set of beliefs, values, and will take a specific action. So I think it's very important to understand that going in, okay? I would much rather utilize real-time targeting and real-time data about a specific individual's buying patterns, search patterns, movement patterns, analyzing what they say on social perhaps, what they purchase, to define them, not the category that they're in. Okay, with such wide-ranging demographics, hobbies, and values, it's no wonder that millennials are one of the hardest groups to market products and services to, I'm assuming. How do you market to such a diverse and large group? So without reading the full question, before going on my tangent, I guess I pretty much answered the question, or at least I hope that I did. It's really, you target by not segmenting them by age. You could target by segmenting based on what you just said, based on the hobbies, by segmenting based upon the values, by past purchases, by places that one has traveled to frequently, sites that one visits frequently, types of content that one might read. Earlier in the semester, I commented on, or I suggested 2 different documentaries that were on Netflix. One was about social media, and the other was about how social media was used in the 2016 presidential election. And I'm forgetting the names of those 2 documentaries that were on Netflix. But then there's also a film that I watched that starred Tom Hanks and Emily Watson, and it talked about them working at a social network. It was kind of like, it was Google without being Google, and talking about how they were manipulating the public. Well, social media is not only manipulating us, it's segmenting us. It's actually polarizing us. People who blame the current president for the polarization of America shouldn't be blaming him. They should be blaming Facebook. They should be blaming Twitter. They should be blaming the artificial intelligence that is polarizing us by only sending us content that reinforces our own viewpoint. So if you believe in one specific thing, then you are more apt to see only that type of content on your feed. It's why I was wondering why there's certain friends' content that I don't see anymore and certain friends' content that I do see. So it's no secret that I voted for Donald Trump. So, and it's important for me just to mention that because of the fact that my friends that have also written pro-Trump policies or pro-Trump or Republican or conservative, I actually consider myself a libertarian. So people who have that more independent mindset, I've seen more posts towards that mindset, as opposed to my friends that post things that are contrary to that or different than that. I don't see their posts anymore. And that's harmful, because what's happening is that I'm not seeing their viewpoint unless I go out and search for it, and they're not seeing my viewpoint unless they go out and search for it. Or in some cases, we might be blocked from seeing either of our own comments. It's why when I post something on Twitter, I expect, so there's some controversial things, I guess, controversial things you could say, that I've posted to Twitter during this election season, where I expected to get hammered by the other side. And I don't even hear crickets chirping because I get nothing back. So either my post has been completely quarantined, it's been shadow banned, or only people with the same viewpoint have seen it, so they're just going to like it and retweet it, but there's not going to be any discussion back. Only in a couple of rare cases does somebody from the other side write something back, because I think only a small group of people from the other side are seeing it. And that is just so harmful, because then makes us think that our ideas are right. And I gotta tell you, and I got into an argument with somebody recently who said to me that they thought all of my ideas were complete conspiracy theories, they were all complete nonsense, and that nothing that I said was factual. And so even when I supported my beliefs or opinions or ideas with documentation, I was then met with criticism saying that none of my ideas were right. They were fallacies, they're false, they're unscientific, whatever it might have been. And also said, you're the first person that I've ever heard any of this nonsense from, and I can't talk to you anymore because you don't think the same way that I do. And it was just amazing to me that we have become so polarized, we've become so segmented in what we're seeing, that we now don't believe anybody that has a different position, which is so scary. And so in addition to Appflix, Next year, I'm going to launch another website. So I'm going to launch Appflix this year. Next year, I'm going to launch another website, which is really going to be about presenting this side and this side, and then allowing, I'm not going to use anything to filter that content out. So I'm going to let this side talk to this side, and if they need to like bash heads online to talk about it, then they can, because in debate there's truth. When there's no debate, when one person just says that you're wrong and the other side says you're wrong, and yet you don't exchange those ideas, you can't find a common ground. And so what we're seeing in marketing, and I'm sorry for the tangent, but let me get back to this. When we talk about marketing, how do we market to such a diverse and large group of people? We first find those commonalities. What are the things that make millennials, baby boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Z, what are some of the common themes, if you will, that appeal to them? But maybe we do it cross-age, and we go specific looking at things like the hobbies, things like the values. As a former political operative, we would target what were called single issue what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry. So we would call them a single issue voter, okay? But I was trying to think of the other term. Anyway, the individual is what we classify as a single issue voter. And so let's say that they were values voters. So that would be, values voters would be somebody that is vehemently pro-life or vehemently pro-choice, okay? So they would vote just on the value of freedom of abortion, or freedom of life. And so as a political operative, if you will, campaign manager, whatever the role was, consultant, if you can identify those two types, talk about their polar opposites, what you do is that you would send them information that feeds into each of their viewpoints only. So you would never send a flyer talking about candidate X if they had a different position than either of these two. You would leave that off of the flyer, but you would find out that what that single issue voter or single issue individual, what they some other things that they might like, you would send it to them. Anyway, did you get what I don't know if I'm explaining that clearly, but let's just say that there's 5 particular issues there. And you would then make sure that the person only saw the things about that particular candidate that the person receiving that data, that mailer, that email, that they would only get it as specific or targeted to them. And when we mail in political campaigns, that's what we do. And so that's how you would target to such a diverse market. You would find first some commonalities, some common characteristics, but then you would hone in on the specifics of that particular individual, not so much based on age group, and you would mail to them. All right, took a long time to answer that one. Let me go with, that was a great question though. Let me go with our final question for today. And the final question Vicky asked here is, Mark Zuckerberg faced scrutiny for this in the past. I think this is an interesting question for social media sites, but for businesses in general. Where should the line be drawn? Well, I wonder if I pretty much touched on this when I was talking about the 2 documentaries, when I was talking about social. Okay, that's a great curation, Vicky. All right, let's see what Peter said. In the digital age, do social media companies have an obligation to raise the barrier to entry for new online media publishers entering their space? How far should Facebook and Twitter go to stop? In the digital age, do social media companies have an obligation to raise the barrier to entry for new online media publishers entering their space? How far should Facebook and Twitter go to stop? Well, Peter, that's an interesting question, and I almost sense that you're in favor of Facebook and Twitter stopping them, because as I'm reading Vicky's question here, she talks about the fact of, or her curation here, about Facebook being owned by Mark Zuckerberg, being the founder, CEO, even though he stole the idea from someone else. Anyway, he did. He faced great scrutiny because they're censoring, just like Twitter is censoring content. So I think in two sides, we've got two different sides of the issue here. And I think this is an interesting question for social media sites, but for businesses in general, where should the line be drawn? And so, Peter, I don't believe in censorship whatsoever. So if you're asking me as a... All right, let me take it a step back. So in the specific question here, there's one of the words that you use here, and so you see the barrier to entry for new online media publishers entering their space. Well, number one, let's clarify something here. Facebook and Twitter and Google and YouTube, they are not publishers under the law. Now this is the real discussion that's been going on. So when Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube and Google, we're owned by YouTube there, when they began this whole fact-checking nonsense, when they began censoring content, not just related to the health crisis, but also to politics, when they began censoring the content of one side, but not censoring the content of the other side, so number one, they're not publishers, okay? They're curators. And under the law, they were not supposed to filter. So Congress gave social media companies blanket immunity to be able for them to allow anything to be posted on their platforms because they were curators, not publishers, without being liable for it. So, for example, free speech says that you can say anything you want in the public square provided it doesn't incite some form of, let's say, panic, okay? I'm just loosely. So I can, in a crowded theater is always the example given, I can't shout out fire because that might stir up a panic of people jumping up out of their seats, rushing to get to the doors, and people get trampled on to get out. So free speech stops at that point in time because what you said right there could cause immediate physical harm or danger. But on a street, I should have the right to be able to say something about a political candidate, a government official, or somebody, or our next door neighbor without repercussion. And that's the difference between, so that's free speech, okay? So as a curator, which is what these social networks are supposed to be, they are not supposed to be the arbiter of fact checking. Because who's checking the fact checkers? And are the fact checkers trustworthy? Do they come from a position of bias? Like, how do we know that it's fair? How do you know when something is marked or flagged as being false or sensitive, or who's to say? That was never social media's job. Social media was given blanket immunity to allow, if this was to encourage engagement and to make the platforms free, social media was supposed to allow anyone to say anything that they wanted. And so for Facebook and Twitter and Google to censor the New York Post, which is not a new online media publisher whatsoever, for them to censor a story about a specific presidential candidate's son and get away with it is against the law. I don't want to see a future where Facebook, Google, Twitter, Apple, Amazon, you name the platform, I don't want to see a future where the technocrats have the power to censor free speech. Because where do we draw the line? Why not, again, as I was talking about in answering the last question, why don't we allow side A to say what they have to say and side B to say what they have to say? Why don't then the defenders of A or the defenders of B then give supporting information? Why don't then the critics of A and the critics of B state their position? And in debate, we will see truth. So these social platforms are not, under the law, publishers. They are curators. And anytime that they censor, they are violating the law. They need to be broken up or they need to be shut down. That's my opinion. Broken up or shut down. They are monopolies, they are autocratic, they are unfair in their business practices, they're monopolistic, and they need to go. They have overexceeded their mandate, and they in fact are now blocking the ability for other people to get into the space, and that's simply not fair. So for example, a lot of people are going to a platform called Parler instead of Twitter or Facebook, because there's no censorship. So, and I don't know, the Rumble something is a competitor to YouTube, I guess. Anyway, there are competing platforms. So this is what happens in a market, Peter. So when some of these platforms have gotten too big for their own britches and now they're censoring others, they then have created a market for other niche players who are saying that they won't censor to get in there. So anyway, Peter, great question. You sparked a fire under me. Anyway, I've been doing this for several hours now, and so I was starting to get tired, and you ignited, you jump charged me, because this is a topic, this troubles me, and it troubles me, and I'll tell you, not from a political standpoint, even though it affects politics. This troubles me because when I went to Suffolk University, I initially was a management major. And so I was taking all my management and marketing class. I couldn't decide between management and marketing, right? So I was getting my BS in either management and BS, right? In BS, in either marketing or in management. And then I took an elective course in the communication and journalism department about organizational development. And I was really fascinated about, or its organizational behavior. Anyway, I was very fascinated about that subject. So that actually led me to transferring out of the School of Management into the College of Communication and Journalism, where it depends. So let's say, at Boston College, for example, organizational behavior is in their School of Management. At Suffolk University, it's called Organizational Development, and it's in the Communication and Journalism department. Same thing. There's some nuances to that, but so anyway, so I switched. But I switched at the end of my sophomore year. So I'd already pretty much done most of the sort of requirements for marketing or management. So I ended up basically getting a dual degree in marketing/management and then also communication and journalism. Okay, anyway, the reason I mention that, Peter, is the fact that as part of that communication requirement, I had to take some journalism classes. And it offends me personally that we're not seeing journalism being played out today. Journalism is supposed to be objective and not be biased or partisan. It's supposed to be fact-finding and looking for the truth. And I don't want social media to be the arbiters of truth. And I don't want CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, ABC, whoever else. I don't want them, if there aren't journalists on those channels, then I don't want them doing the investigative report and getting down to the truth. Man, 60 Minutes, I remember growing up, 60 Minutes on Sunday nights was just a fantastic show because these were objective journalists searching for the truth. I think about, you should read or watch a film, either read about it or watch some biopics on it, but read about, most recently I watched a miniseries called The Loudest Voice. It was about Roger Ailes and the founding of Fox News. You should watch, what was the one? There are two great ones that came out in the past couple of years. One of them is about the Pentagon Papers, and another one was about the molestation charges against the Archdiocese in Boston. Again, the paper, anyway, I forgot the name of both of those. Check those out, and then read it, and then Google to find out and get some documentation to read the other stories. But real journalism today is dead. And the curators now, fake publishers, now fact checkers, are ruining or destroying their, as I mentioned 2 questions ago about the polarization due to social media. It's really affecting how we are behaving in every way, how we behave with each other, how we engage with each other, how we cancel each other, discriminate. And we need to get back to, you have your idea, I have mine. Let's see what the common ground is. That's not happening today. It's you have your idea, I have my idea. I hate you, you hate me. We don't find a common ground. I do everything that I can to cut you off. And that's just so wrong. And I wish the situation that happened this past year couldn't have happened at a worse time, because we were already becoming so cut off from each other, from a different viewpoint. And now that we are caught off with each other, and now when we're wearing our mask, right? So here we go. I think about the symbol that this has become. To some people, this has become a symbol of not wearing it as a symbol of defiance. To some others, it's a symbol of compliance. And to some others, it's, they firmly do believe that they're protecting other people, right? Whether that's propaganda or not. But by wearing this mask, look at me now right here. All you can see is you can just see my eyes, and you can see my forehead. And even if I smile at you right now, right? So I'm smiling right now. You can't see me. You don't know what I'm thinking. But when I have this mask off and I smile, you can see that I'm friendly, or I'm genuine, or that I'm making an expression that would be positive or bewildered or whatever it might be. The mask now will further divide us when we're together. Now, the reason why I love retail is that social experience that's there. And we were already beginning to lose that thanks to e-commerce and just our own life pattern. So not specifically with e-commerce, but just how our lives were changing. But now when we're out in public with each other, at a restaurant, can't go to a bar, can't go to a movie in some cases, but we're at the grocery store, whatever it is that we're doing, or we see people, how about this restrictive order by an individual that I'm not going to mention, that says that no matter what you're doing outside, even if no one's around you, even if you're in the forest all by yourself, you got to wear this, because it keeps you in the habit or practice of wearing it. No, you know what it does is it dehumanizes us, so that when you see me on the street, you don't see me as a kind, caring, compassionate person. You just see this. And it's that expression that's lost. And it's deliberate, and it's an intentional act to dehumanize, to further polarize. Now, of course, I'm not negating, I'm not a doctor, I'm not pretending to be one, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just sharing that all of this couldn't have happened at a worse time, because we're so divided from each other now. And we've got to find a way to come back so that side A and side B can come together, find common ground, and get along with each other again. Talk to each other again. Take a little bit of my idea, take a little bit of your idea, put them together, and move forward together. All right? Anyway, great question. Hope you appreciate my take or my answer on that. If I get in trouble for this, I'm going to blame you, Vicky, and I'm going to blame you, Peter. Take what I said with a grain of salt. I just am trying to simply share my take or my opinion on what got us to where we're at, and what the problem is, and then what we as marketers need to do to fix it, or influencers or opinion leaders, or maybe we don't. We just stay on the sideline and we let things play out. Every day I think about whether I should just stop tweeting, stop talking, and just let other people fight it out, or whether I need to get more involved. Okay, anyway, that's it. I will let you go. Thank you for tuning in to Chapter 4. And I have 2 more to record, and I'm not going to record any more today. I will work on editing these and getting them out, and then you can take a look at 5 and 6 before we end this 6 rounds of videos for this particular segment of Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A. Thanks a lot for all the great questions. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching video 4 of 6 in our Fall 2020 session. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this Marketing Kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.